The information provided in this video is for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute professional financial, legal, or career advice. While every effort has been made to ensure the accuracy of the information presented, scholarship policies, eligibility criteria, and funding availability are subject to change by the respective institutions and organizations at any time. The content herein does not provide any assurance of specific results, and potential outcomes will vary based on individual circumstances, qualifications, and the rigorous selection processes of the awarding bodies. Viewers are strongly encouraged to conduct their own due diligence, consult with official university financial aid offices, and seek guidance from certified educational consultants or legal professionals before making significant financial or academic decisions. The creators of this content are not affiliated with the scholarship providers mentioned, unless otherwise stated. The average American student is currently walking into a financial trap that will take them approximately 25 years to escape. Historical trends indicate that total student loan debt in the United States has surpassed $1.7 trillion, a figure that is now higher than the total credit card debt of the entire country. We have reached a point where a four-year degree from a prestigious private university can cost upwards of $350,000 when factoring in tuition, room, board, and interest. This is a staggering barrier that prevents some of the brightest minds in the world from pursuing their potential. But here is the controversial reality that the high-priced educational consultants do not want you to focus on. Every single year, hundreds of millions of dollars in scholarship funding goes completely unclaimed. While millions of students are signing away their future earnings to high-interest lenders, there is a parallel universe of fully funded opportunities that remain untouched simply because the average applicant does not understand the structural mechanics of how high-level funding is distributed. This is not about being a genius or having a perfect 4.0 GPA. In fact, case studies of successful applicants show that many students who receive full-ride scholarships are not necessarily the ones with the highest test scores, but the ones who understand the hidden architecture of the American scholarship system. The problem we are solving today is the information gap that keeps you in debt. Most people believe that a scholarship is a small $500 check that helps buy textbooks. That is a fundamental misunderstanding of what is possible. We are entering a masterclass on the fully funded model, which means your tuition is zero, your housing is paid for, your meals are provided, and in many cases, you are actually paid a monthly stipend to attend the university. This video is part 1 of a 10-part deep dive, designed to move you from the mindset of a seeker to the mindset of a strategist. We are going to dismantle the myth that higher education must be a debt sentence and replace it with a step-by-step framework for securing the most competitive financial awards in the United States. To understand how to win this game, we must first define the specific parameters of what a fully funded scholarship actually entails. In the world of higher education, terms like full tuition and full ride are often used interchangeably by the public, but they represent vastly different financial realities. A full tuition scholarship covers only the cost of classes. While this is a significant benefit, it still leaves the student responsible for the most volatile costs of living in the United States: housing and food. In major hubs like Boston, New York, or Los Angeles, these ancillary costs can exceed $30,000 per year. A true fully funded scholarship, or a full ride, covers the entire cost of attendance. This includes tuition, mandatory university fees, room and board, a stipend for books and supplies, and sometimes even health insurance and travel allowances. Historical trends show that students who secure full-ride packages graduate with a net worth advantage that places them decades ahead of their peers who relied on traditional financing. We must look at the 3 primary pillars of funding in the U.S. system: institutional, private, and government-sponsored. Institutional funding is the most robust. This comes directly from the university's endowment. Institutions like Harvard, Yale, and Stanford have endowments in the tens of billions of dollars. Because of this, they can afford to operate on what is known as a need-blind admissions policy for domestic students and, in rarer cases, for international students. A need-blind policy means the university decides whether to admit you without ever looking at your bank account. If you are admitted and your family income falls below a certain threshold, often around $75,000 to $100,000, the university automatically covers every single penny of your education. This is not a prize you compete for. It is a structural guarantee of their financial aid policy. Case studies of students from low to middle income backgrounds show that it is often cheaper to attend an Ivy League university than it is to attend a local state college, provided you understand how to trigger these institutional policies. The second pillar is private funding. These are scholarships provided by foundations, corporations, and philanthropic organizations. Think of the Gates Millennium Scholars Program or the Coca-Cola Scholars Foundation. These are highly competitive and often look for specific leadership traits or demographic alignments. The key to this pillar is not the quantity of applications you send, but the precision of your alignment with the organization's mission. Many students fail here because they use a generic template for every application. In this guide, we will break down why a tailored narrative is the only way to penetrate the top tier of private funding. The third pillar involves government-sponsored awards. For U.S. citizens, this includes the Pell Grant at the federal level and various state-specific grants. For international students, this includes prestigious programs like the Fulbright program, which is funded by the U.S. Department of State. These programs are designed not just to educate, but to foster diplomatic and cultural exchange. Therefore, the application process for these requires a completely different strategy, focusing on your potential as a global ambassador rather than just your academic record. Why does so much money go unclaimed? The answer lies in the complexity of the application landscape. The Bureau of Labor Statistics and various educational datasets suggest that the sheer volume of paperwork, ranging from the FAFSA free application for federal student aid to the CSS profile and individual supplemental essays, creates a barrier to entry that many students simply give up on. Furthermore, there is a pervasive psychological barrier. Many students self-select out of the process because they believe these awards are only for the elite. However, when we look at the potential outcomes of a diversified scholarship strategy, we see that the most successful applicants are those who apply to a mix of high-prestige national awards and niche, localized scholarships that have far less competition. In this masterclass series, we are going to go beyond the surface. We are going to look at the timeline of a successful applicant, which often begins 18 months before the first day of classes. We will analyze the data on which majors receive the most funding, with historical trends showing a significant tilt towards STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and specialized healthcare fields, though we will also uncover the hidden pockets of funding for the humanities and social sciences. We will examine the role of the personal statement, which is the most undervalued part of the application. Your personal statement is not a resume in prose form. It is a persuasive document that must prove to a scholarship committee that investing in you will provide a high social return on investment. We are also going to address the specific hurdles for international students. The U.S. system is unique in its complexity, and for someone applying from abroad, the nuances of credit evaluation, English proficiency requirements, and visa-related financial certifications can be overwhelming. We will provide a detailed breakdown of which U.S. universities are the most generous to international applicants, and how to navigate the specific tax implications of receiving a full-ride scholarship, as stipends are often considered taxable income by the IRS. By the end of this 10-part series, you will have a comprehensive blueprint. You will know exactly where the money is, how to qualify for it, and how to present yourself as the ideal candidate. We are moving away from the hope and pray method and toward a data-driven strategic approach to debt-free education. This is the ultimate guide to fully funded scholarships in the USA, and it starts with understanding that the money is there. You just need the key to the vault. We are going to provide that key. Let us begin the deep dive into the first critical step: building your target list and understanding the difference between merit-based and need-based aid structures. To master the scholarship landscape in 2026, you must first dismantle the illusion of the sticker price. When you see a university website stating that the annual cost of attendance is $95,000, that number is almost entirely irrelevant to a strategic applicant. That is the retail price, and in the American higher education system, very few people actually pay retail. To secure full funding, your strategy must diverge into two distinct pathways: merit-based aid and need-based aid. Understanding the mechanical differences between these two is the difference between a decade of debt and a life of financial freedom. Merit-based aid is an investment in your talent. Universities use these funds as a recruitment tool to attract students who will improve their institutional profile, research output, or athletic standing. Historical trends indicate that as college enrollment numbers fluctuate, mid-tier and even high-tier universities become increasingly aggressive with merit packages to secure high-achieving students. Imagine a student named Jackson in 2026. Jackson has a 3.9 GPA and a strong interest in aerospace engineering. He could apply to a top 5 engineering school where he would be an average student and likely receive zero merit aid. Instead, Jackson targets a high-ranking state university like the University of Alabama or Arizona State University. These institutions have historically offered transparent merit grids. If Jackson meets specific test score and GPA thresholds, the potential outcome is an automatic full tuition waiver, often supplemented by a housing stipend. For Jackson, merit aid is a transactional exchange. The university gets his high statistics to boost their national rankings, and Jackson gets a degree with zero out-of-pocket costs. On the other side of the spectrum is need-based aid. This is not about what you have achieved, but what you can afford. This is where the most prestigious institutions in the world, the Ivy League, Stanford, MIT, and elite liberal arts colleges like Amherst or Williams operate. These schools have multi-billion-dollar endowments that allow them to practice need-blind admissions. This means they decide whether to admit you based on your merits, but once you are in, they analyze your financial situation and meet 100% of your demonstrated need. Consider the case study of Elena. It is 2026, and Elena is a brilliant writer from a household with an annual income of $55,000. Her family has minimal assets. Elena applies to a private university with a sticker price of $92,000 per year. To the uninformed observer, this seems impossible. However, because this institution meets full demonstrated need without loans, Elena's financial aid package covers tuition, room, board, and even provides a small stipend for personal expenses. The potential outcome for Elena is a degree from one of the most powerful networks in the world for a total cost that is effectively less than a monthly grocery bill. The first step in your masterclass strategy is building a target list that balances these two philosophies. You cannot simply pick schools based on their mascot or their location. You must categorize your list based on financial probability. You need to identify schools that are need-blind versus those that are need-aware. A need-aware institution will consider your ability to pay as a factor in the admissions decision. If you are a borderline candidate and you require a full ride, a need-aware school may pass on your application in favor of a student who can pay the full price. Historical data suggests that aiming for need-blind institutions is the safest path for high-need students, while aiming for generous merit-granting institutions is the best path for middle to high-income students who do not qualify for need-based aid. To find these schools, you must look at the Common Data Set. This is a document that almost every university in the United States publishes annually, yet most students never look at it. You should go to a search engine and type the name of the university followed by Common Data Set 2025 or 2026. Scroll down to Section H. This section is the roadmap to the university's bank account. Section H2 will show you exactly how many students received institutional need-based scholarships and the average dollar amount. Section H6 is even more critical if you are an international student, as it discloses whether the institution provides financial aid to non-resident aliens and how much. If a school only gives aid to 5 international students out of a class of 2,000, your statistical probability of receiving a full ride there is near zero. You want to find institutions where the average aid package is high and the percentage of students receiving it is substantial. Another tool you must master is the net price calculator. By federal law, every college in the United States must have one on their website. In 2026, these calculators have become more accurate, reflecting the updated Student Aid Index or SAI. You should spend a full weekend inputting your family's financial data into the calculators of at least 20 different schools. You will likely find that 2 schools with the same sticker price will give you vastly different aid packages. One might offer you a $40,000 grant, while another might offer you the same amount but in the form of high-interest loans. A fully funded scholarship is defined by the absence of loans. If a financial aid letter includes a Parent Plus loan or a subsidized Stafford loan as part of the package, that is not a full ride. It is a debt obligation. Imagine if you spent 4 months researching these financial structures before you ever wrote a single application essay. You would enter the admissions cycle not with a list of dream schools, but with a list of strategic financial partners. You would know that for University A, you are a top decile applicant who will trigger an automatic presidential scholarship. You would know that for University B, your family income qualifies you for a total tuition waiver. This is how you bypass the student loan crisis. You do not wait until the acceptance letter arrives to figure out how to pay for it. You build the list so that every single school on it is a school that has a historical trend of providing the level of funding you require. Step by step, your target list should include 3 safety schools where your stats are well above the average and merit aid is likely, for target schools where you are a competitive match for both admission and funding, and 3 reach schools that are need-blind and have the largest endowments in the country. This diversified portfolio ensures that even if you are rejected from a high-prestige reach school, you have a high-value merit offer waiting from a safety school. The data shows that the gap between the wealthy and the debt-laden in the United States is often just a gap in administrative literacy. By understanding the difference between the CSS profile, which looks at your family's home equity and retirement accounts, and the FAFSA, which focuses more on liquid income, you can position your finances to maximize your eligibility for need-based aid. We will deep dive into these forms later, but for now, your mission is to look at your list of colleges and ask, is this school paying for me, or am I paying for them? In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to look at the hidden gatekeepers of these funds. Most people think the admissions officer is the only person you need to impress, but there is a separate entity known as the scholarship committee that often operates under a completely different set of rules. We are going to reveal the psychological triggers that make a committee choose one student for $1 million endowment over another. If you think your high GPA is enough to win a full ride, you are missing the most important piece of the puzzle. The truth about the specialized selection process is something most high schools never teach, and it is exactly what we are covering next. To truly understand the specialized selection process, you have to step inside the room where these life-changing decisions are made. It is 2026, and the landscape of scholarship selection has shifted. It is no longer just about the admissions officer who schemes your application for 3 minutes. For a fully funded award, you are facing a separate, high-stakes scholarship committee. This group often consists of senior faculty, distinguished alumni, and sometimes even the donors themselves who provided the endowment. Their goal is not just to admit a student, it is to invest in a future legacy. They are looking for a high social return on investment. If they are going to spend $300,000 on your education, they need to be convinced that you will achieve something that reflects glory back onto the institution. Imagine if you are sitting in a mahogany row boardroom at a top-tier university. On the table are 2 applications. The first belongs to Sarah. Sarah is what we call the well-rounded student. She has a 4.0 GPA. She was the captain of the volleyball team. She played the piano for 10 years, and she volunteered at a local animal shelter every Saturday. In the eyes of a standard admissions officer, Sarah is a perfect candidate for admission. But in the eyes of a scholarship committee looking to award a full ride, Sarah has a problem. She is replaceable. There are 10,000 Sarahs applying this year. She is a generalist in a world where the highest funding is reserved for specialists. Now look at the second application. This belongs to Marcus. Marcus has a 3.7 GPA, which is technically lower than Sarah's. However, Marcus has what we call a spike. Since the 10th grade, Marcus has been obsessed with the ethics of artificial intelligence in rural healthcare. He didn't just join clubs. He started a regional nonprofit that provides digital literacy workshops to elderly farmers in his county. He has a letter of recommendation from a local health official who calls him a visionary. Case studies of top-tier scholarship winners, such as those in the Robertson Scholars Leadership Program or the Gates Scholarship, show a historical trend favoring students like Marcus. Marcus represents a specific narrative. He is not just a student, he is a mission. The committee can visualize exactly what Marcus will do with their money. They aren't just buying his past performance. They are funding his future impact. The psychological trigger you must pull is the shift from applicant to asset. Scholarship committees in 2026 are increasingly focused on institutional priorities. These priorities change every few years based on the university's strategic plan. One year, a university might be launching a new sustainability initiative, and suddenly they are looking for students with a background in environmental activism. Another year, they might be trying to bolster their performing arts prestige, and they will prioritize a world-class oboe player over a standard pre-med student. This is why you must research the university's strategic plan, a document usually found on the Office of the President's website. If you align your application narrative with the university's 10-year goals, you are no longer just another student. You are the solution to their institutional needs. Historical trends also show that the interview phase for fully funded scholarships is where most top-tier candidates fail. Many of these awards, like the Park Scholarship at NC State or the Jefferson Scholars at the University of Virginia, involve a selection weekend. This is an invitation-only event where the top 40 or 50 candidates are flown to campus for a series of interviews and group exercises. Imagine if you are at one of these weekends. You are surrounded by the smartest students in the country. The mistake most students make is trying to outcompete the others in the room. They become aggressive in group discussions or try to show off their knowledge. The committee, however, is watching for something else: collaborative leadership. They are looking for the student who listens, who synthesizes the ideas of others, and who moves the group forward without dominating it. In 2026, emotional intelligence is weighted almost as heavily as intellectual capacity for these top-tier awards. Case studies of successful finalists reveal that those who demonstrate genuine curiosity about their peers and a deep sense of humility often outperform those who are purely focused on self-promotion. Step by step, you need to conduct an archetype analysis. Go to the website of the specific scholarship you are targeting. Look at the bios of the last 3 classes of winners. Do not just look at their majors. Look at the verbs used to describe them. Are they described as advocates, researchers, creators, or bridge builders? If the last 15 winners are all described as community organizers and your application is focused entirely on solo laboratory research, you are fighting an uphill battle. You either need to find a different scholarship that prizes the researcher archetype, or you need to reframe your research in a way that highlights its community impact. Another critical factor in the 2026 selection process is the unAI-able factor. With the ubiquity of large language models, scholarship committees are on high alert for essays that feel polished but soulless. They are looking for the grit, the specific sensory details, and the idiosyncratic personal reflections that a machine cannot replicate. They want to know about the time you failed and what that failure felt like in your chest. They want to know about the specific conversation that changed your mind about a political issue. If your application feels too perfect, it feels fake. Authenticity has become the most valuable currency in scholarship selection. We also have to discuss the role of the recommender. For a fully funded scholarship, a standard letter that says you are a hard worker is a dead letter. You need a letter that provides data-backed evidence of your impact. A potential outcome of a strong recommendation is that it confirms your spike. If you claim to be a leader in environmental tech, your science teacher's letter shouldn't just talk about your grades. It should talk about the time you spent 6 hours after school fixing a broken solar panel for the school's greenhouse. These specific anecdotes are what the committee uses to justify their decision when they present their finalists to the university provost. This leads us to the concept of the portfolio of proof. In the 2026 application cycle, the most successful students are moving beyond the PDF application. They are providing links to their work, whether it is a published research paper, a portfolio of digital art, or a recorded performance. This provides the committee with tangible evidence of your merit. It moves your application from the realm of claims to the realm of facts. When a committee sees a student who has already produced professional-level work in their field, the risk of investing in that student drops significantly. The specialized selection process is not a lottery. It is a highly calculated search for specific types of human capital. By understanding the committee's rubric, identifying institutional priorities, and developing a spiky profile that provides a high social return on investment, you move yourself into the top 1% of applicants. You are no longer hoping they choose you, you are making it irrational for them not to. But even with a perfect profile and a deep understanding of the committee's mind, your application will live or die by the quality of your written narrative. There is a specific way to structure your essays that bypasses the logical brain of the reader and speaks directly to their emotions. In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to break down the narrative arc of the full-ride essay. We will reveal the 3-act structure used by the world's most successful scholarship winners to turn a standard personal statement into an irresistible call to action. We are going to look at the exact opening sentences that stop an exhausted reviewer from scrolling and force them to read every single word. The art of the scholarship essay is about to be demystified. The art of the scholarship essay begins with a brutal realization. In 2026, the person reading your application is likely exhausted, caffeinated, and sifting through a digital mountain of 3,000 similar stories. Historical trends in admissions offices show that a reader typically makes a subconscious decision about the quality of an applicant within the first 20 seconds. If your essay begins with a standard sentence like "I have always wanted to attend this university because of its prestigious reputation," you have already lost. You have confirmed that you are a commodity, not an asset. To secure a fully funded scholarship, you must master the narrative arc of the full-ride essay. This is a 3-act structure designed to transform your life experience into a compelling business case for the university's endowment. The first act is the pattern interrupt. This is your opening. You must bypass the logical, scanning brain of the reviewer and hook into their limbic system. Imagine a student named Chloe in 2026. Chloe is applying for a top-tier leadership scholarship. Most students would start by listing their achievements. Chloe starts with this. The heat in the community center was stifling, but the silence of 40 seniors staring at a blank projector screen was even more suffocating. This is a sensory hook. It places the reader in a specific moment of tension. It creates an open loop in their mind. Why are they staring? What is Chloe doing there? Will she succeed? Case studies of successful essays from the last decade show that students who start in media res, in the middle of the action, have a significantly higher retention rate than those who start with a biographical summary. Act 1 should comprise roughly 20% of your essay. Its goal is to establish the stakes. You are not just a student. You are someone who has identified a problem or a challenge. This challenge does not have to be a global catastrophe. It could be a local inefficiency, a personal failure, or a complex intellectual question. The potential outcome of a strong Act 1 is that the reader feels an emotional investment in your journey. They want to see how you solve the problem. In Chloe's case, she describes the challenge of bridging the digital divide for elderly citizens who were being left behind by the rapid automation of 2026. This sets her up not as a volunteer, but as a strategic thinker responding to a societal shift. Act 2 is the intellectual journey, and it should occupy 50 to 60% of your word count. This is where most students fail because they become too abstract. They use words like leadership, passion, and commitment. These words are empty calories. In a deep dive masterclass essay, you replace adjectives with data and specific verbs. Instead of saying you are a leader, you describe the time you negotiated a budget of $5,000 with a skeptical city council. Instead of saying you are passionate about science, you detail the 68 failed iterations of your lab experiment before you found the correct catalyst. Imagine if you treated your essay like a white paper for a high-level investment. You must provide a portfolio of proof. Chloe doesn't just say she helped seniors. She details how she developed a simplified interface for 2026-era smart devices and tracked a 40% increase in digital literacy among her participants over 6 months. This is where you demonstrate the spike we discussed earlier. You are showing the committee that you have the technical competence and the grit to follow through on a vision. You are proving that you can handle the academic rigors of a fully funded program because you have already handled the rigors of the real world. Act 3 is the resolution and the vision. This is the final 20% of the essay where you connect your past actions to your future at the university. This is not about what the university can do for you. It is about what you will do with the university's resources. You must be hyper-specific. Do not just say you want to study engineering. Mention the specific laboratory on campus, the specific professor whose research aligns with yours, and the specific global problem you intend to solve after graduation. Chloe concludes by explaining how a degree in urban planning from this specific institution will allow her to scale her digital literacy model to 5 other major metropolitan areas. Historical trends suggest that the most successful Act 3 narratives use the bridge technique. You are bridging the gap between who you are now and the person the university wants to claim as an alumnus in 20 years. You are inviting them to be part of your success story. By the time the reader finishes the essay, the potential outcome should be a feeling of FOMO, fear of missing out. They should feel that if they do not award you this scholarship, they are letting a future world leader or a groundbreaking researcher walk away to a rival institution. There is also a psychological component to the tone of your essay that we must address. We call this the humble brag paradox. If you are too humble, the committee might miss your achievements. If you are too boastful, you appear unteachable. To balance this, you must anchor every achievement in a moment of learning or a team effort. Instead of saying I won the national championship, you say leading our team to the national championship taught me that a leader is only as effective as the feedback loops they create within their squad. This shifts the focus from the trophy to the insight. It shows that you are a reflective individual who grows from every experience. In 2026, we must also talk about the AI filter. Many universities now use specialized software to detect essays that are overly reliant on generative models. These models tend to produce essays that are structurally perfect but emotionally flat. They use the same transition words like furthermore, however, and in conclusion. To bypass this, you need what we call the idiosyncratic detail. This is a detail so specific to your life that no machine could have invented it. Maybe it is the specific way your grandfather's hands looked when he taught you to garden, or the exact phrasing of a criticism that once stung you but eventually made you better. These small human touches are what secure the interview. Step by step, your essay editing process should involve 3 distinct passes. Pass 1 is the content pass. Do you have the 3 acts? Pass 2 is the data pass. Have you replaced every vague adjective with a concrete fact or number? Pass 3 is the voice pass. Read the essay out loud. If it sounds like a textbook, rewrite it. If it sounds like you are telling a story to a mentor you deeply respect, you are on the right track. One final case study to consider is that of a student who applied for the Rhodes Scholarship. He didn't write about his perfect grades. He wrote about his obsession with the history of salt, and how that obsession led him to study the economic collapse of specific coastal regions. It was strange, it was specific, and it was undeniably human. He demonstrated a level of intellectual curiosity that the committee knew they couldn't find anywhere else. That is the level of depth you are aiming for. But the essay is only the bridge to the next stage. Even with a world-class narrative, you can still be disqualified by a single clerical error or a missed deadline in the complex web of American financial aid. Most students don't realize that the scholarship hunt is a logistical war, as much as an intellectual one. In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to dive into the scholarship war room. We will reveal the exact organizational systems used by students who manage 40 different applications simultaneously, without missing a single detail. We will break down the hidden calendar of the 2026 application cycle, including the priority deadlines that can make or break your funding chances before you even hit submit. The logistics of winning a full ride are about to become your greatest advantage. Victory in the scholarship game is not determined by the elegance of your prose alone. It is determined by the precision of your logistics. Welcome to the Scholarship War Room. In the 2026 application cycle, the sheer volume of data, deadlines, and digital portals can overwhelm even the most organized student. Historical trends show that 40% of high-achieving applicants fail to secure full funding not because they lacked merit, but because they missed a secondary priority deadline or failed to submit a specific financial document that was hidden deep within a university's student portal. To win a full ride, you must transition from being a student to being a project manager. Imagine if you were a student named Alex in 2026. Alex is targeting 15 universities, each with its own unique set of requirements. Without a system, Alex is essentially playing a game of administrative Russian roulette. Instead, Alex builds a master scholarship tracker. This is not just a simple list, it is a live document that tracks 5 critical variables for every institution: the priority scholarship deadline, the FAFSA and CSS profile status, the recommendation letter progress, the supplemental essay requirements, and the portal verification status. The first and most dangerous trap in the 2026 landscape is the priority deadline. Many students see a general admission deadline of January 1st and assume they have time. However, case studies of major state universities and elite private colleges reveal a recurring pattern. The vast majority of merit-based and institutional full-ride funds are allocated to the early applicant pool. If a university has a priority scholarship deadline of November 1st or December 1st, and you submit on January 1st, the potential outcome is that you may be admitted, but the scholarship vault will already be empty. You must treat the priority deadline as the only deadline. If you are not in that first wave, you are essentially competing for the leftovers of the university's budget. Next, we must address the technical gatekeepers, the FAFSA and the CSS profile. In 2026, the FAFSA, or Free Application for Federal Student Aid, is the baseline. It determines your eligibility for federal grants and loans, but more importantly, it is the document many universities use to calculate your Student Aid Index, or SAI. You must submit the FAFSA as soon as it opens. Historical trends indicate that state-level grants are often distributed on a first-come, first-served basis. If you wait until the spring, you are leaving thousands of dollars on the table. However, for the most competitive fully funded scholarships, the FAFSA is not enough. Most top-tier private institutions require the CSS profile, managed by the College Board. This form is far more intrusive and detailed than the FAFSA. It looks at your family's home equity, retirement accounts, and even the financial status of non-custodial parents. Imagine if you are a student whose parents are divorced. The CSS profile may require financial data from both parents, regardless of their current relationship. If one parent refuses to provide this data, your application for a full ride can be instantly disqualified. A strategic applicant in 2026 identifies these requirements in August, not November. They start the difficult conversations with family members months in advance to ensure every tax transcript and W-2 is ready for upload. The third pillar of the war room is recommendation management. In a deep dive masterclass on funding, we must recognize that your teachers and counselors are your strongest allies, but they are also your greatest logistical bottleneck. In 2026, teachers are often asked to write dozens of letters. If you ask them 2 weeks before the deadline, the potential outcome is a generic, rushed letter that does nothing to help you win a full ride. Alex's strategy involves the master recommendation packet. He doesn't just ask for a letter. He provides his recommenders with a digital folder containing his resume, a bulleted list of his 3 most significant achievements in their specific class, and a copy of his core scholarship essay. This ensures that the teacher's letter reinforces the narrative of the spiky profile we discussed earlier. If Alex is positioning himself as a future leader in renewable energy, his physics teacher can specifically mention his work on the solar-powered drone project, rather than just saying he got an A in the class. Furthermore, Alex sets an internal deadline for his recommenders that is 2 weeks earlier than the actual university deadline. This gives him a buffer to gently nudge them if the letter hasn't appeared in the portal yet. We also have to discuss the student portal. Once you submit your common application, your job is only half finished. Within 48 hours, every university will send you an email with login credentials for their internal applicant portal. This is where the real war is won or lost. In 2026, universities use these portals to request additional documentation that was never mentioned on their main website. They might ask for a verification of your family's business income, or a specific signature on a residency form. Historical trends show that students who do not check their portals at least twice a week often miss these requests, leading to an incomplete file. An incomplete file is an automatic rejection for scholarship consideration. You must create a routine. Every Tuesday and Thursday, you log into every single portal to ensure there are no red flags or missing items. Now, let us look at the complexity of the supplemental scholarship application. Some of the most prestigious full rides, such as the Robertson Scholars or the Ingram Scholarship Program, require an entirely separate application in addition to the university's general admission application. These often have their own unique essay prompts and recommendation requirements. If you only focus on the Common App, you will miss these entirely. You must scour the university's financial aid page for any mention of named scholarships. These are the hidden gems where the competition is high, but the potential outcome is a total package worth over $400,000. Imagine if you could see the data on how many students fail at this stage. It is staggering. The difference between a student who gets a full ride and one who gets nothing is often just 30 minutes of extra research on a Tuesday night. You are not just looking for scholarships, you are looking for the criteria for those scholarships. If a scholarship says it is for students who have demonstrated a commitment to social justice, and your resume is entirely focused on competitive gaming, you have a mismatch. You must either reframe your gaming as community building, or find a different scholarship. As we move deeper into this masterclass, you must realize that the logistics of the 2026 cycle are designed to weed out the uncommitted. The complexity is the filter. By mastering the FAFSA, the CSS profile, the priority deadlines, and the portal management, you are proving to the university that you have the organizational capacity to handle the rigors of their most elite programs. You are showing them that you are a professional, even before you step onto their campus. But even with a perfect organizational system and a spiky profile, there is one variable that many students completely overlook: the geography of funding. There is a controversial truth about how your location in the United States, or your country of origin, drastically changes the math of the scholarship game. In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to dive into the geographic arbitrage of scholarships. We will reveal how moving your target list just 300 miles in a different direction can triple your chances of a full ride. We are going to look at the state-specific programs that provide massive funding to outsiders and the secret lists of universities that are desperate to diversify their geographic footprint in 2026. The map of the U.S. is about to become your greatest strategic tool. The map of the United States is not just a geographic representation. For the strategic scholarship hunter in 2026, it is a heat map of financial opportunity. Most students make the fundamental mistake of looking only at the schools in their immediate backyard, or the most famous institutions on the coasts. This local bias is exactly what leads to the massive student loan debt we discussed earlier. To secure a fully funded education, you must understand the concept of geographic arbitrage. This is the practice of leveraging your location and the university's desire for geographic diversity to secure funding that would be unavailable to you if you stayed close to home. Imagine if you are a student named Jordan living in 2026 in a high-density, hyper-competitive area like Northern Virginia or Silicon Valley. In Jordan's high school, a 4.0 GPA and a high SAT score are the baseline. He is competing against thousands of students with identical profiles. In this environment, Jordan is a commodity. However, if Jordan shifts his gaze toward the Midwest or the Deep South, he suddenly becomes a rare asset. Universities in these regions are often desperate to diversify their student body beyond their own state borders. Historical trends show that universities perceive a student from a distant state as a sign of national prestige. When a school in Nebraska can claim they have students from 45 different states, it improves their rankings and their brand. To get those out-of-state students, they are willing to pay a premium. Let us look at the mechanics of the merit grid, a system used extensively by large public universities such as the University of Alabama, the University of Mississippi, and the University of Arizona. In 2026, these institutions have refined their automatic merit scholarships to a science. For an out-of-state student, these schools often offer tiered funding based on a combination of GPA and standardized test scores. For example, a student with a 3.8 GPA and a high test score might trigger an automatic out-of-state tuition waiver, which is worth roughly $30,000 per year. When you combine this with additional departmental scholarships or honors college stipends, the potential outcome is a total cost of attendance that is lower than the local community college. Case studies of students from the Northeast moving to the South for college show that many are able to graduate with zero debt, simply by moving a few hundred miles outside their comfort zone. A critical tool in this geographic strategy is the regional tuition exchange. These are massive agreements between groups of states that allow students to attend out-of-state universities for a fraction of the normal cost. The most prominent is the Western Undergraduate Exchange, or WUE. In 2026, this program includes 16 states and territories. If you live in a state like Colorado, you can attend participating schools in states like Hawaii, Montana, or Oregon and pay no more than 150% of that school's resident tuition. While this is not a full ride on its own, it brings the cost down so significantly that it makes other institutional scholarships go much further. Similar programs exist in other regions, such as the Academic Common Market in the South and the Midwest Student Exchange Program. The key is to check the specific major requirements, as these exchanges are often restricted to programs that are not offered in your home state. This is a strategic loophole. By choosing a specialized major like marine biology or specialized aviation, you can trigger massive out-of-state discounts that are historically overlooked by the general public. In 2026, we are also seeing the full impact of what sociologists call the demographic cliff. Due to lower birth rates 18 years ago, there are fewer college-age students in the United States than in previous decades. This has created a buyer's market for higher education, particularly in regions that are experiencing population stagnation. Universities in the Rust Belt and parts of the rural Midwest are fighting for their survival. Case studies of liberal arts colleges in these areas reveal that they are offering increasingly aggressive financial aid packages to maintain their enrollment numbers. A student from California applying to a small, prestigious liberal arts college in Ohio or Iowa is much more likely to receive a full ride than if they applied to a similar school in their home state. These institutions have large endowments but low visibility on the national stage. They are willing to use their funds to lure high-achieving students from the coast to bolster their academic environment. Imagine if you looked at the admissions data for an Ivy League school like Harvard or Yale. Historical data suggests they strive for a class that represents all 50 states. If you are applying from a high-population state like New York, you are one of tens of thousands. But if you are applying from an underrepresented state like Wyoming, South Dakota, or Alaska, your geographic location acts as a massive thumb on the scale in your favor. This is not about being a better student. It is about filling a specific slot in the university's institutional puzzle. For the elite, need-blind schools we discussed in Part 2, being from an underrepresented zip code can be the deciding factor that triggers a full-ride financial aid package. Step by step, your geographic strategy should look like this. First, identify your home region's tuition exchange programs and list every university that offers your intended major. Second, research the merit grids of large public universities in the South and Midwest that are known for aggressive out-of-state recruiting. Third, target at least 3 small, high-endowment liberal arts colleges in rural or Midwestern settings where your coastal or international background will provide a diversity boost. This diversified geographic portfolio maximizes your leverage. You are no longer begging for a spot. You are choosing between institutions that are competing for the privilege of having you on their campus. Furthermore, we must consider the cost of living arbitrage. A fully funded scholarship that includes a $2,000 monthly stipend goes much further in a college town like Athens, Georgia, or Ames, Iowa, than it does in New York City or San Francisco. In high-cost areas, even a full ride can feel tight when you factor in the price of groceries, transportation, and off-campus entertainment. In 2026, students who choose geographic arbitrage are finding that their stipends allow them to save money while in school, giving them a financial head start upon graduation. Historical trends indicate that students in low-cost-of-living areas have a higher quality of life and less financial stress, which directly correlates to better academic performance and higher retention rates. For international students, geographic arbitrage is even more powerful. Most international applicants only know about schools in 5 cities: Boston, New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, and San Francisco. Because of this, the competition for funding at universities in these cities is astronomical. However, a university in the center of the country that is looking to increase its international profile may offer massive incentives to attract global talent. Case studies of international students who chose universities in states like Arkansas, Oklahoma, or Kentucky show that these students often receive more personalized support and higher funding amounts because they are part of a smaller, more valued international cohort. The secret to winning the scholarship war in 2026 is to go where the competition isn't. You must be willing to be the big fish in a smaller pond. If you are willing to move to a region that others are overlooking, the financial rewards are historically significant. By aligning your search with the university's desperate need for geographic diversity, you turn your location into a currency. This is the strategic use of the American map to fund your future. But geographic arbitrage is only one piece of the puzzle. Even if you find the perfect school in the perfect location, you still have to prove that you are the specific person they want to invest in. In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to dive into the extracurricular impact portfolio. We will move beyond the traditional resume and look at how to build a digital presence that acts as a 24/7 advocate for your scholarship candidacy. We will reveal how to turn a simple hobby into a documented leadership project that scholarship committees in 2026 find impossible to ignore. The era of the simple list of clubs is over. The era of the high-impact portfolio has begun. In the hyper-competitive admissions cycle of 2026, the list of extracurricular activities you provide on your application is essentially a static document in a dynamic world. To the scholarship committee of a fully funded program, a list of 5 clubs and 3 sports is just noise. It tells them what you did, but it fails to prove why it mattered. To move into the top tier of candidates, you must transition from an extracurricular list to an extracurricular impact portfolio. This is a curated digital-first body of work that provides undeniable evidence of your leadership, grit, and specialized spike. In an era where AI can generate a perfect-looking resume for anyone, the scholarship committee is looking for proof of work, tangible results that exist outside the digital walls of your application. Imagine if you are a student named Maya in 2026. Maya lives in a mid-sized city in the United States and has a passion for sustainable urban planning. Most students with this interest would simply join the environmental club or volunteer at a community garden. In a sea of 10,000 applicants, Maya would be invisible. Instead, Maya spends 18 months building her impact portfolio. She starts a localized project called the Vertical Canopy Initiative. Using 2026-era low-cost IoT sensors and recycled materials, she designs a modular hydroponic system for apartment balconies in low-income food deserts. But Maya doesn't stop at the building phase. She documents every failure, every iteration, and every harvest on a dedicated project website. She tracks data on how much fresh produce was grown and the reduction in grocery costs for the participating families. By the time she applies for a full-ride scholarship, Maya doesn't just check a box for volunteering. She provides a link to a portfolio that includes time-lapse videos of the installation, a PDF of her technical designs, and a letter of endorsement from a city council member who visited her pilot site. Case studies of successful scholars at institutions like Duke or the University of Chicago show a historical trend. The committee is 3 times more likely to fund a student who has created a legacy project than a student who has simply participated in existing ones. Maya's portfolio provides a high social return on investment. It proves she is an operator, a thinker, and a finisher. The architecture of an impact portfolio in 2026 is built on 3 pillars: narrative, evidence, and endorsement. The narrative is the through line of your spike. It explains the problem you identified and the unique perspective you brought to the solution. The evidence consists of the data, photos, videos, and GitHub repositories or design files that show the work was actually done. The endorsement consists of third-party validation from people who are not your high school teachers. This could be a local business owner, a nonprofit director, or a university researcher you collaborated with. When a scholarship committee sees this level of depth, the potential outcome is a shift in their perception of you. You are no longer a high school student. You are a professional in training who is already producing results. To build your own impact portfolio, you must follow a strategic 6-month timeline. In months 1 and 2, you identify your area of specialization. This must be something you are genuinely curious about, as the committee can smell manufactured passion from a mile away. If you love music, do not just play the violin. Start a program that brings music therapy to local pediatric wards and track the physiological data of the participants. In months 3 and 4, you execute. This is the grit phase. You must face a challenge and document how you overcame it. Scholarship committees in 2026 prize the ability to pivot. If your original plan failed, show the committee the data of why it failed and how you adjusted. This is what we call the portfolio of resilience. In months 5 and 6, you cure it. In 2026, you do not need a computer science degree to build a professional-grade digital portfolio. You can use decentralized hosting platforms or specialized portfolio builders to create a clean, minimalist site. Your site should not be a dump of every photo you've ever taken. It should be a curated journey of your 3 most significant projects. Each project should follow the STAR method: situation, task, action, and result. But for the results section, you must go beyond yourself. Do not just say you learned a lot. Say the project reached 500 people, saved $3,000, or reduced waste by 20%. Quantifiable impact is the universal language of scholarship committees. Historical trends also indicate that the most successful portfolios in 2026 leverage the power of the digital footprint. This means that if a committee member Googles your name, they shouldn't just find your social media profiles. They should find your work. Students who have published articles in local newspapers, been interviewed on niche podcasts, or had their projects featured on community blogs have a massive advantage. This third-party visibility acts as a pre-selection mechanism. If the world already thinks you are worth talking about, the scholarship committee will feel more confident in their decision to invest $300,000 in your future. Imagine if you spent just 4 hours a week on this portfolio instead of 4 hours a week on a club you don't actually care about. The compounding effect of that time is staggering. By the time you hit the submit button on your application, you aren't just sending words. You are sending a lived experience. You are presenting a case study of your own potential. This is how you bypass the GPA and test score arms race. While other students are fighting over an extra 10 points on an exam, you are building a real-world asset that makes their test scores look academic and theoretical. Furthermore, we must discuss the concept of the micro-credential. In 2026, many students are augmenting their portfolios with industry-recognized certifications. If you are interested in finance, having a Bloomberg Market Concept certification or a data analytics certificate from a reputable online provider proves that you have the technical skills to back up your interests. These credentials act as high-signal markers of your self-directed learning. They show that you didn't wait for a teacher to tell you what to learn. You went out and mastered the tools of your future trade on your own initiative. The impact portfolio is the ultimate differentiator. It takes the abstract concept of merit and makes it concrete. It takes the risk out of the scholarship committee's decision. When they look at your portfolio, they aren't guessing if you will succeed at their university. They are looking at proof that you are already succeeding in the world. You are demonstrating that you have the agency to identify problems and the competence to solve them. This is the hallmark of every fully funded scholar in the modern era. But there is one final high-stakes hurdle that even the best portfolio cannot fully prepare you for. Once your application and your portfolio have moved you past the initial screening, you will be invited to the most stressful 30 minutes of your life, the finalist interview. In 2026, these interviews are no longer just friendly chats. They are psychological evaluations designed to see if you can handle the pressure of being a representative of the university's brand. In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to dive into the scholarship interview warzone. We will reveal the 3 questions that are designed to make you fail, and the specific verbal techniques used by elite candidates to turn a trap question into a winning answer. We are going to look at the body language secrets of 2026 that can win over a panel of 5 skeptics in under 10 minutes. The final gate is about to open. The moment you step into the interview room, Whether it is a physical boardroom or a high-definition virtual meeting space in 2026, the nature of the scholarship competition shifts from objective data to subjective influence. You have already proven you have the grades, the scores, and the impact portfolio. Now, the committee is looking for one thing, a reason to say no. In these high-stakes finalist interviews, the panel's primary goal is to stress-test your character to ensure that you are a safe and high-yield investment for the university's prestige. This is the scholarship interview war zone, and if you treat it like a casual conversation, you have already lost the funding. You are no longer an applicant. You are a representative of an institution's multi-million-dollar brand, and you must perform with the poise of a diplomat. Imagine if you are a student named David in the spring of 2026. David is a finalist for one of the most prestigious full-ride awards in the country. He is sitting across from 5 individuals: a retired CEO, a dean of students, a senior research professor, a prominent alumna, and a current scholarship recipient. They aren't just listening to his words. They are analyzing his micro-expressions, his tone of voice, and his ability to remain calm under intellectual fire. Historical trends in scholarship selection reveal that the final decision is often made based on how a candidate handles the 3 specific trap questions designed to expose intellectual dishonesty or emotional immaturity. The first trap question you will encounter is the paradox of failure. The interviewer will look you in the eye and ask, "Tell us about a time you failed, and looking back, why was your failure actually your fault?" Most students try to pivot to a fake failure, such as being a perfectionist or working too hard. In 2026, committees view this as a red flag of low self-awareness. To turn this trap into a win, you must provide a real documented failure where you were the primary cause of the collapse. David's strategy was to discuss a time he mismanaged a project deadline for his nonprofit because he failed to delegate tasks correctly. He didn't make excuses about the team. He owned the lack of clear communication. The potential outcome of this level of honesty is that it proves to the committee you have the resilience to handle the crushing pressure of an elite university program. You are showing them the delta of your growth, the measurable distance between who you were during that failure and the refined strategist sitting before them today. The second trap question is the intellectual humility test. In 2026, as information becomes increasingly polarized, committees are desperate for students who can change their minds. They will ask, "What is a belief you held strongly 2 years ago that you no longer believe today?" If you cannot answer this, you appear stagnant. David prepared for this by discussing his previous stance on urban housing density. He explained how a specific case study he read during his junior year challenged his assumptions and led him to a more nuanced, data-driven perspective. By admitting he was wrong, David demonstrated that his mind is an open system capable of processing new evidence. This is a high signal marker for academic success. The committee isn't looking for a student who knows everything. They are looking for a student who is capable of being taught. The third and perhaps most dangerous trap is the loyalty versus integrity question. They might ask, "If you discovered that a fellow scholar in this program was consistently breaking a minor university rule that didn't hurt anyone, what would you do?" This is designed to see if you value your social standing more than the ethical standards of the institution. There is no easy answer, but the winning strategy is to focus on the concept of radical transparency. You must explain the framework you would use to make the decision, showing that you can navigate complex moral gray areas without losing your internal compass. In 2026, we also have to master the body language secrets of the hybrid era. If your interview is virtual, your eye contact must be with the camera lens, not the faces on the screen. This feels unnatural, but to the viewer, it creates the psychological perception of confidence and directness. Historical data on virtual communication shows that speakers who look at the camera are rated as 20% more trustworthy than those who look at the screen. Furthermore, you must master the power pause. When a difficult question is asked, do not rush to fill the silence. A 3-second pause indicates that you are a deep thinker who is not easily rattled. It allows you to regulate your breathing and select a precise opening sentence. David used this technique to perfection. Every time he was hit with a complex question, he took a slow breath, looked the interviewer in the eye, and began his response with a clear, calm structure. Furthermore, we must look at the concept of warmth versus competence. Social psychology research suggests that we judge people based on these two axes almost instantly. If you are all competence, listing facts and achievements without a smile, you appear cold and unapproachable. If you are all warmth, smiling constantly but lacking depth, you appear lightweight and incapable of rigorous work. The elite scholarship winner in 2026 occupies the high warmth, high competence quadrant. You achieve this by grounding your high-level technical answers in human stories. When David spoke about his engineering projects, he didn't just talk about torque and tension. He talked about the people in the community who would benefit from the bridge he was designing. He showed that his brain was powerful, but his heart was engaged. Step by step, your interview preparation must involve the 3-story method. You do not need to prepare for 100 questions. You need to prepare 3 versatile, high-impact stories from your life that can be adapted to almost any prompt. You need a story of conflict where you navigated a difficult personality, a story of growth where you mastered a skill that didn't come naturally, and a story of vision where you saw a future possibility that others missed. By the time you reach the interview stage, these stories should be so well rehearsed that they feel spontaneous. You are not memorizing a script. You are internalizing your own narrative so that you can deploy it with precision under pressure. Imagine if you spent 10 hours recording yourself on video and watching it back to identify your verbal tics. In 2026, students are using AI-driven mock interview tools to analyze their speech patterns for filler words like or Eliminating these fillers increases your perceived authority by an order of magnitude. The potential outcome of this level of preparation is that you move from being a nervous candidate to being a commanding presence. You are signaling to the committee that you have already done the work to polish your professional persona. By the end of the interview, the committee should feel that they aren't just giving you a scholarship, they are entering into a partnership with you. You should end with a high-value question for them, one that shows you have done your due diligence on their specific mission. Do not ask about the money or the perks. Ask about the university's long-term commitment to a specific research area, or how the scholarship community collaborates across different disciplines. This shifts the power dynamic. It shows that you are also evaluating them to ensure they are the right fit for your ambitions. But what happens if the interview goes perfectly, and the financial aid letter still doesn't cover everything? Or what if you are waitlisted for the scholarship you spent months pursuing? Most students think the process ends when the letter arrives, but in 2026, the real game is often won in the aftermath. There is a hidden phase of the scholarship hunt that involves high-level negotiation and the art of the appeal. In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to dive into the scholarship appeal engine. We will reveal the exact templates used to negotiate a better financial aid package and how to leverage competing offers without burning bridges. We are going to show you how to turn a no into a yes using the data of the 2026 admissions landscape. The final negotiation is where the most money is found, and we are going to show you exactly how to ask for it. The financial aid package sitting in your inbox is not a final verdict. It is an opening proposal. In the 2026 admissions landscape, understanding the internal mechanics of an enrollment management office is the key to unlocking thousands of dollars in additional funding. Most students view their financial aid award as a static document, but historical trends indicate that many universities keep a secondary reserve fund specifically designed to close the gap for highly desirable students who are on the fence about enrolling. This is known as the appeals process, or in official administrative terms, a request for professional judgment. To navigate this war room, you must understand that the university is a business with a very specific goal: meeting their yield target. The yield rate is the percentage of admitted students who actually choose to attend. In 2026, due to the ongoing demographic cliff which has resulted in a smaller pool of graduating high school seniors, universities are more desperate than ever to protect their yield. If they lose you to a competitor, it negatively impacts their national rankings and their budget. This gives you, the applicant, a level of leverage that was unheard of a decade ago. However, you cannot simply demand more money. You must engage in a data-driven reevaluation process that provides the financial aid office with the administrative cover they need to increase your award. Imagine if you are a student named Sophia in 2026. Sophia has been admitted to her dream private university with a $60,000 merit scholarship. However, the total cost of attendance is $95,000, leaving a $35,000 gap that her family cannot cover without taking on predatory private loans. Sophia doesn't panic. Instead, she triggers the scholarship appeal engine. She knows that a successful appeal is built on 2 pillars: changed financial circumstances or competing offers. The first pillar, changed financial circumstances, is the most common path for a professional judgment review. Under federal guidelines, financial aid officers have the authority to adjust the data on your FAFSA or CSS profile if your current reality no longer matches the tax data from 2 years ago. In 2026, with the volatility of the global economy, Many families find that their 2024 tax returns do not reflect their 2026 financial status. If a parent has lost a job, experienced a significant medical expense, or even if the family is supporting an elderly relative, these are all valid grounds for an appeal. Sophia's family experienced a significant shift when her father's small business faced a downturn due to local supply chain disruptions in early 2026. To appeal, Sophia doesn't just send an emotional email. She gathers a portfolio of evidence, including profit and loss statements, bank records, and a concise one-page summary of the financial delta. Case studies of successful appeals show that the more professional and data-heavy your presentation is, the more likely the officer is to approve it. They need documentation to justify the change to their auditors. By providing this, Sophia is helping the officer do their job. The second pillar is the competing offer strategy. This is where geographic and institutional arbitrage come into play. Sophia was also admitted to a rival university with a slightly higher ranking that offered her a full ride. She uses this as a data point. In her appeal letter to her dream school, she doesn't say that the other school is better. She says that she is deeply committed to her dream school's specific curriculum, but is facing a difficult financial choice. She attaches the financial aid letter from the rival institution. Historically, peer institutions, schools that are ranked similarly and compete for the same students, will often match or come close to matching a competitor's offer to protect their yield. Step by step, the appeal letter should follow a specific professional architecture. The first paragraph must reaffirm your commitment to the university. You must state clearly that they are your first choice and that you intend to enroll if the financial gap can be bridged. This signals to the office that increasing your aid will result in a guaranteed enrollment, which is exactly what they want to hear. The second paragraph outlines the specific financial hurdle, using clear, non-emotional language. The third paragraph introduces the evidence, whether it is a change in income or a competing offer. The final paragraph asks for a specific amount. Do not just ask for more money. Ask for the exact amount needed to make the enrollment possible. In 2026, timing is everything. The window for negotiation is extremely narrow, typically falling between April 1st, when most decisions are out, and May 1st, which is national candidates' reply date. If you wait until late April, the reserve funds may already be depleted. If you start too early, before the university has a sense of their total yield, they may be more conservative. The sweet spot is the second week of April. This is when enrollment managers begin to see their initial deposit numbers and start to worry about meeting their class size goals. Another critical factor in 2026 is the use of automated enrollment modeling software. Many universities now use algorithms to predict how likely a student is to enroll based on their zip code, their social media engagement with the school, and how quickly they open their acceptance email. If the algorithm thinks you are a lock to attend regardless of the price, the school has less incentive to give you more money. This is why you must maintain a level of strategic distance. Even if the school is your absolute favorite, your communication must reflect that the financial barrier is a real and potentially deal-breaking obstacle. Consider the potential outcomes of a well-executed appeal. Case studies show that students who appeal often see an increase of $5,000 to $15,000 per year in their aid package. Over 4 years, this represents a $60,000 swing in your net worth upon graduation. This is not about being greedy. It is about ensuring that the investment you are making in your education is sustainable. The financial aid office expects these conversations. They have a process for them, and they respect students who approach the situation with professional maturity. However, there is a boundary you must never cross. You must never lie about your financial situation or manufacture competing offers. In the interconnected world of 2026 admissions, schools often communicate with each other, and being caught in a fabrication is grounds for immediate rescinding of your admission and all financial aid. Your goal is to be a partner in the process, not an adversary. You are providing the university with the justification they need to invest more in you. As we move toward the conclusion of this masterclass, you must realize that the scholarship journey doesn't end when you set foot on campus. Many students make the mistake of thinking they only need to win the money once. But fully funded scholarships often come with maintenance requirements that are just as rigorous as the application process itself. In the final part of this series, we are going to look at the Scholarship Survival Guide. We will reveal the hidden clauses in full-ride contracts that can cause you to lose your funding in your sophomore year, and the strategic ways to keep the money flowing all the way to graduation. We will also discuss the post-graduation requirements of certain fellowships that can dictate where you live and work for years to come. The final chapter of your debt-free journey is the most important one for your long-term freedom. Securing the funding is only the first half of the marathon. In 2026, the scholarship landscape is littered with stories of students who cross the finish line of admissions, only to lose their full ride halfway through their sophomore year. You must understand that a fully funded scholarship is not a gift. It is a performance-based contract. If you fail to read the fine print of that contract, the potential outcome is a sudden, mid-semester bill for $40,000 that you cannot pay. To ensure your long-term freedom, you must transition from a scholarship seeker to a scholarship steward. This final chapter of our masterclass focuses on the Scholarship Survival Guide, the specific logistical and behavioral protocols required to keep the money flowing until the day you toss your cap in the air. Imagine if you are a student named Ethan in the fall of 2026. Ethan worked for 2 years to secure a prestigious merit-based full ride to a top-tier research university. He arrives on campus, joins a fraternity, and starts a rigorous course load in organic chemistry. Ethan assumes that because he was awarded the scholarship for 4 years, the money is safe. However, Ethan hasn't closely examined his scholarship maintenance agreement. This document contains the GPA anchor. Historical trends show that nearly 30% of merit scholars face scholarship probation at least once, because they do not understand the specific GPA requirements of their award. Most high-level scholarships in 2026 require a minimum cumulative GPA, often ranging from a 3.0 to a 3.5. But there is a hidden trap. Some scholarships also require a minimum semester GPA. This means that if Ethan has one bad semester in a difficult weed-out class, even if his overall average is high, he could trigger a funding review. Step by step, you must identify your satisfactory academic progress or SAP requirements. This is a federal and institutional standard that tracks your GPA, your credit completion rate, and your maximum time frame for degree completion. If Ethan drops below these benchmarks, the university is legally required to suspend his financial aid. To survive, Ethan must utilize the university's academic resource centers at the first sign of a grade dip. In 2026, the most successful scholars are those who treat their GPA like a professional KPI, key performance indicator, checking their standing after every midterm to ensure they remain within the safe zone of their contract. Next, we must address the 2026 behavioral and digital conduct clauses. In an era of hypervisibility, universities have become increasingly aggressive about protecting their brand. Your scholarship contract likely contains a morality clause or a code of conduct agreement. This extends far beyond campus property. Historical trends indicate that universities now employ digital monitoring tools to scan for conduct that violates institutional values. Imagine if Ethan is caught on camera at a protest that turns into a high-profile campus disruption, or if he posts content on social media that is deemed to be in violation of the university's anti-harassment policies. In 2026, the Scholarship Committee has the right to revoke funding for behavioral infractions that don't necessarily lead to a criminal record, but do damage the university's reputation. You are a public representative of the donors who funded your education. If you become a liability to their brand, they will withdraw their investment. There is also the major restriction trap. Many fully funded awards, particularly those from private foundations or government agencies like the Department of Defense's SMART Scholarship, are tied to a specific field of study. Imagine if Ethan starts as an aerospace engineering major but realizes in his second year that his true passion is Renaissance literature. If his scholarship is a STEM-specific award, changing his major will result in an immediate loss of funding. In some high-stakes case studies, if a student changes their major or drops out, they may even be required to pay back a portion of the funds already spent. Before you pivot your academic career, you must consult with your scholarship coordinator to understand the financial implications of a change in your degree plan. Furthermore, we must discuss the tax implications of the full ride. This is the detail that catches almost every student off guard. Under current IRS regulations in 2026, scholarship money used for tuition, fees, and required books is generally tax-free. However, any amount used for room and board, or provided as a living stipend, is considered taxable income. If Ethan receives a $20,000 annual stipend for living expenses, the IRS views that as a salary. Historical trends show that students who do not set aside a portion of their stipend for taxes find themselves with a massive unexpected tax bill in April. You should expect to receive a Form 1098-T from your university, which summarizes your tuition payments and scholarship amounts. It is critical to work with a tax professional, or use specialized software to calculate your liability early in the year. Failing to report this income can lead to penalties that erode the very financial freedom you worked so hard to achieve. Then there is the service bond, a concept common in elite fellowships like the Pickering, Wrangell, or Boren Awards. These programs provide full funding for undergraduate or graduate school, but they come with a mandatory service requirement. For example, Ethan might receive a full ride in exchange for 5 years of service in the U.S. Foreign Service or a specific government agency after graduation. This is a high-stakes trade. You are trading your post-grad career flexibility for a debt-free education today. Case studies of fellowship recipients show that while these programs offer incredible career trajectories, the penalty for breaking the service bond is often the total repayment of the scholarship plus interest. You must be certain that you are willing to commit to the lifestyle and location requirements of these bonds before you sign the contract. The logistics of maintenance also require an annual renewal workflow. Many students believe the FAFSA is a one-time task. It is not. You must resubmit the FAFSA every single year to maintain your eligibility for federal and many institutional grants. In 2026, the renewal window often opens in the late fall, and missing the priority renewal date can result in a reduced aid package for the following year. Ethan must also keep an eye on his student portal for scholarship-specific renewal forms. Some private donors require an annual progress report, including a thank you letter and a summary of your extracurricular impact. This is not just a polite gesture. It is often a requirement for the disbursement of next year's funds. Finally, we must look at the multi-year funding strategy. A true masterclass student knows that the hunt for money doesn't stop once you are enrolled. In 2026, many of the most lucrative scholarships are only available to upperclassmen, those who have already proven their merit on campus. There are departmental awards, research grants, and study abroad fellowships that can add even more value to your package. Ethan should spend 1 hour every month checking the university's internal scholarship database for new opportunities. By stacking smaller, specialized awards on top of his initial full ride, he can fund high-level internships, international research trips, and professional certifications that will set him apart in the 2026 job market. The journey to a fully funded education is a transformation. You started this series as someone looking for a way out of the debt trap, and you are finishing it as a strategic asset in the global economy. You have learned how to build a target list, how to engineer a spiky profile, how to win the war of logistics, and how to defend your funding through professional stewardship. The potential outcome of this level of preparation is not just a degree. It is the ability to start your professional life with a net worth of 0 or higher, while your peers are starting with a 6-figure deficit. The American scholarship system is complex, competitive, and often frustrating. But for those who understand the hidden architecture we have discussed over these 10 parts, it is the ultimate engine of social mobility. You now have the blueprint. You have the data. You have the step-by-step framework. The only thing left is the execution. The vault is open. It is time for you to claim what your talent and hard work have earned. While this concludes our deep dive masterclass on the scholarship process, the world of 2026 is moving faster than ever. New funding models, such as income share agreements and corporate-sponsored degree paths, are beginning to emerge as alternatives to the traditional scholarship. In our next series, we are going to break down the future of higher education funding, looking at how big tech companies are now paying students to bypass university altogether. If you thought the scholarship game was competitive, wait until you see the new war for talent. The landscape is shifting again, and we will be there to map it out for you.